Hey, it's you. You made it. I was hoping this would happen. I'm so glad you're here. I can't believe it. I can't believe you're here. This is great. What's that? Oh, you already clicked away. I came on too strong. The intro was too boring. I want to talk to you today, you in particular, about the consequences of crossing heaven's boundaries. Sounds mysterious. It's like got an edge to it, though. Really, if we're talking about boundaries in heaven, why are we talking about boundaries with heaven? Because, bro, that's how love is. Love has boundaries. You can't have relationships with people without setting healthy boundaries, are what make relationships possible. And also, we talk about heaven in this show. And when people think about heaven, we can just sort of think of it as like it's a ball of goo, or it's a thing that everything's made of marshmallows. It doesn't seem like it's real, because the real world is complex and interesting and meaningful. And we imagine heaven is just, anything goes, it's all love. Heaven is the same way. Actually, this world is like it is because of the way that heaven is, and not in reverse. And this world has boundaries. Even good things have boundaries. I'm sitting in the middle of a boundary box between me and the outside world. The walls of this room are a boundary, and I need them there because this is the coldest March in history. I always try to convince my wife that March it's like spring. It's spring, and she's like, no, it's still winter. She's right. This year anyway. I'll get her next year. Boundaries can be and have to be part of anything complex, and heaven is not just it's a machine that creates happiness for the human race. So that's what I love about Swedenborg's description of heaven, including the boundaries, is that it's complicated and it's real and it can function and it's exciting. So let's take a little look at how the boundaries operate and what they do to make the whole work better. All right, let's start talking about perfection. Because why wouldn't you want to talk about perfection? Does anybody not like perfection? Nah, I'm not that into perfection. Perfection and varying degrees of perfection is what creates the boundaries in heaven. Swedenborg writes in his excellent book, Heaven and Hell, number 34, all perfection increases as we move inward and decreases as we move outward, because more inward things are closer to the Lord and intrinsically purer, while more outward things are more remote from the Lord and intrinsically cruder. If you need that in visual, this is how it's set up. In the middle is the Lord. That's perfection. And as we move toward it, we're moving deeper and deeper into perfection. It's actually increasing levels of perfection are what pull you in here. But I feel like the headline from that, the thing that I think is cool, is the idea that the Lord is perfection. God is perfection. Because even when I was saying perfection before, what is perfection? Oh, that was perfect. But what would make something perfect? Everything lines up how it should be. That God is perfection itself. So if you walked into the room, you'd be like, wow, look at that. His hair is perfect. Everything. I don't know exactly what it would be. Somehow, God is perfection. And everything is just about more opening to that perfection. Is that exciting to you? To me, that's just, that's cool. You can swap out God for perfection. Perfection is trying to do this. I think it's cool. So what is it like for a human being to get perfected? Well, as we get perfected, we take on the label of angel. That is a more perfect state that we move into. And the elements of what it is, I'm an angel. I'm a more perfect angel. That means I got the HX75 harp with 14 strings on it. No, it has to do with qualities of the heart and mind. That's what an angel is. So Swedenborg says intelligence increases as angelic perfection increases. Wisdom is an element that as it increases in angelic perfection. Love, and he also says everything good. So everything you would think it is, that stuff increases as perfection increases. And you know what that does? What's the result of angelic perfection? Increase in happiness. You become happier the more that the Lord perfects you. Because the Lord is perfection, and there's only one perfect goal, which is the goal of making people happy. What what else is there to try for? Anything else ends up looking small-minded other than I want you to have happiness. Everything else is it's fluff. It's superficial. So to move into that perfection, changes must take place within the structures of our minds. Because as we said before, heaven is not just marshmallows. I don't know why. It's just not real. It is structured, and structured more than the amazing structure that we see in the biology and how the physical organs are built. The mind has even more complexity and structure to it. If you think of the mind having these levels that we've talked about, perfection happens when those levels open. So we can open our mind on the first level. That is when we want to live a good life. We make that a priority. And so that inflow from God, we open, we accept that. Our mind gets opened on the first level, and that brings us into the first heaven. When that opens, we have the mind that can create the state that pulls us toward perfection, which puts us in the first or outermost heaven. And you can stop there if you want, but there's more. There can be more. There's a second level of your mind which can open. As it opens, and as I understand it, this is more through depth of study. You want to really know what's going on with love. What is God? What is perfection really about? And how can I more and more be that? And I think about it and I work it over and I change how I behave. You can open up that second, or God can open up that second level in you. The appearance is that you open it up in yourself. That again pulls you closer to perfection itself. So that's what brings you into the second heaven. But there's more. There is a third, deepest, final level in us, which opens when you and God are on the same wavelength. You don't have to really be prompted and pushed into doing the right thing because you feel it the same way that God feels it. When that opening happens, we enter the third or inmost level of perfection, which is the third or inmost level of heaven. And those are the different states of mind in these different heavens. And they're different. I just said the word different twice. Those are different structures. Look at them. Those things are different, and different things work in different environments. You see this all over the world. Go study animals. Every animal is different based on the environment it needs to live in. And so the complexity of the human race, in that we have different levels of our minds open in different configurations, introduces the necessary complexity that creates these levels and these boundaries in heaven. Well, I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Heaven's not made out of marshmallows. So it's what I'm trying to say when I say that is that it's real. It's real. And to the point where the boundaries that exist because of the different kinds of levels of perfection and levels of openness of mind that are there, you can mess yourself up. You can have an unpleasant experience if you cross one of those boundaries. It's not like there's a suggestion. These are not laws like someone's posted a sign and if you open the door it doesn't matter what the sign is. This is more like the laws of physics. Swedenborg talks about what happens if even an angel goes from one heaven to another heaven. So you've got these three different heavens. You've got heavenly angels in the top heaven. Stop me if you've heard this before. Just kidding, I'll never stop. Spiritual angels in this second heaven. Natural angels in the first heaven. Remember from the diagram we just saw, this is the first level of the mind open, the first, second, and third. If you have, let's say, angel from the lower heaven says, well, it's all heaven. I'm just going to go up here. I know, but my mind isn't open in the same way that these angels have it, but I'm just going up there. What happens is, according to Swedenborg, no, it's not like this angel here says, hey, get out of here. What are you doing? You don't have clearance for this. You don't have a pass. Do you have a membership ID card? But because the level of your mind is no longer suited to the environment, angels who move up feel, he says, seized with anxiety. And that anxiety actually becomes painful. And they can't see anyone there. To them, it looks empty because sight is a function of the mind in the afterlife. So if you can't comprehend the kind of things that are going on there, you don't see anyone there. And you might think, well, that's not fair. Like they can't go up. But obviously, let's say like a mighty third level angel was all the way opened up. If they came down here, man, you'd be a rock star. But if an angel from an innermost heaven goes down, Swedenborg says that when they get there, they can't think or speak clearly. Like all of the wisdom that they have leaves them. He even says that they stammer. I don't know what I'm talking about. They lose confidence. So neither one can happily go from one heaven into another. Which seems strange, but not really, because it's exactly how things are in the world. I'm here, sitting at sea level, and let's say I want to go to outer space. That's so beautiful out there. I want to go out. I want to see the curvature of the earth. I want to zoom around in the starry sky. I'm going to go and walk out into outer space. Well, my head's going to explode. I don't know exactly what happens, but I know it's not good for you to walk out into outer space. It's freezing cold. There's like solar radiation and all this stuff. You can't just do it. Or let's say I want to go down and see the bottom of the ocean. You can't do it. You can't breathe down there. You can't, just like going from a higher to a lower state, you can't move as quickly. You can't take in breath, just like angels can't think. That's how it is. If you're not suited to that environment, you can't just go into it, because the reason that I'm not suited for outer space is so complicated. My body is built to take advantage of the atmospheric pressure at the level I'm on. And there's so many little membranes and other doohickeys that depend on that. It depends on the level of oxygen that's in air. My lungs are built for that, to go into the water. There's so many things that are not suited for that. It's because of a myriad reasons. And those reasons are the reasons why I can exist so well in this level. So you can't just jump when there's that much complexity involved. This is a story that Swedenborg told of people who decided, well, I'm just going to try it for myself and see what it's like. This is what can happen to you even in heaven if you ignore the boundaries.
There were some people from the outmost heaven who had not yet been taught that heaven is established in an angel's deeper qualities, and who believed that they would find higher heavenly happiness if only they were let into the heaven where the higher angels lived. They were allowed to visit them, but when they arrived, even though there were a great many angels there, they did not see anyone, no matter where they looked. The deeper levels of the newcomers had not been opened at the level where the more inward angels lived, so they had no sight. Before long, they were seized by heart pain and eventually could scarcely tell whether they were still alive or not. So they quickly made their way back to the heaven they had come from and were delighted to be among their own people. They vowed that they would never again crave conditions that were higher than the ones that suited their own way of life.
So they went up. No, this isn't that great. Back home, actually, I love it here. I can breathe here. This is good. Isn't that the message of so many kids' books? Be happy who you are. You can't just go, if you're in one level of heaven, you can't just go to another level of heaven. That's what I've spent this entire section telling you. You're not suited for it. It can't happen. Or can it? So I was going on and on and on. And on last section about, look, you can't just go into outer space, man. Human beings cannot go into outer space. Human beings cannot go deep down in the ocean, dude. But you can. People do it all the time. I could go into outer space right now. I just need a spaceship and a spacesuit. And somebody who's willing to make me into an astronaut. I can go into the ocean. I just got to have a scuba tank. I got to have some training. But I need that technology to do it. You can go to places that you couldn't go usually, but you just need the preparation and the technology that allows you to do it. It's the same thing in heaven. And Swedenborg will always do this. If you're ever reading Swedenborg and you read something that freaks you out and you're like, what? He says this can never happen, but I want it to. Just stay tuned, because he'll say, when it does happen, or he'll give the counterexample, because as we said before, it's complicated. It's just like think if you were writing a book describing how everything works in the world. You would say, oh man, can I pull an example out of nowhere? Cities have a lot of cars in them. But actually, sometimes there's one like Venice that has boats and a canal instead. That's pretty good. I seriously didn't think of that before. I just pulled that out of thin air. So it is with the complexity of the spiritual world. So it is true that there's a nature within the minds of these angels on these different levels that does not allow them to just jump from one level to another without the consequences of that environment not suiting them. However, as Swedenborg says in Heaven and Hell 35, it is different when the Lord raises people from a lower heaven into a higher one so that they can see its splendor, which happens quite often. Oh, go vacation. That happens all the time. Then, what's the difference? Then they are prepared in advance and provided with mediating angels who serve as agents of communication. So instead of a scuba suit, you got a scuba angels, you got space suit angels that somehow there's certain communities of angels that because of the nature of their minds and how they process things, which affects the environment around you, they can create a bubble, a sphere in which it's like the squirrel in SpongeBob who has that air bubble around her head so she can go to the bottom of the ocean. That can happen to you in heaven. There is a preparation, and when they are around you, when it's done according to order, according to the laws of divine design, absolutely. You want to come up here? That's great. Oops, I fell over. Sorry. It's tough moving you from level to level. You want to come up here? It's great. We're going to make sure that everything is taken care of so you can come up here. This happened to Swedenborg all the time. He would say he had to go down even way out into hell and see people there and talk with them and ask them things about the life that they have. And there would be angels that came with him and prepared it so that they'd be safe when they went down there. Actually, that's part of what people can do in the afterlife, is allow this sort of travel for people there. So it can happen, but just like physically, you just got to do it the right way. But there's a reason why it takes doing to get you somewhere else. Because you are happiest in the level that your mind is suited to. Swedenborg talks about why it's important that we have a home level. He says, people who live in the same heaven can associate with anyone there, and their delight in getting together is in proportion to the similarity of the values that they are devoted to. Ultimately, you have somewhere that is your home, and it speaks deep down to what you love and what you value. And getting to be there and stay there allows you to develop into excellence within that level. To understand that, all you gotta look at is penguins. Penguins, listen, I love penguins, and I'm not trying to offend any penguin lovers out there, but they're awkward on land. I know there's the March of the Penguins, there's that movie which shows how amazing it is that they survive in Antarctica, but they can't walk very fast. They can barely get over obstacles. They are compromised on land because they're adapted for both land and water. You're committed to neither, so they could never traverse the land like an animal that's meant for it. That you just put them next to like a snow leopard, you're going to see, okay, they absolutely, it's cool they can transition between levels, but they can't take advantage of the level they're in. Penguins. Does that make sense? So by having people have a home in the level that they do, and by people mainly being there, it allows them to experience that level and spread out into it and soak up all of the Lord's goodness and truth that is there. It allows you to build this happy life because you can specialize and be suited to your environment. And all of these levels reinforce each other. They need each other to exist. The inmost heaven would collapse without the outmost heaven. The middle heaven would lose all of its wisdom without the inmost heaven. There's absolutely a mutual interdependence, and so much so that it's like, the legs, the torso, and the head in a human being. We need to have people of all these different kinds, and they need to be where they are and hanging out and doing what they do. You may be wondering, though, can you ever move up levels? Like, could you ever make a real shift from level to level? And I feel like I always struggle to find out what he says about it. But in researching this episode, Karin found this cool number about that very thing happening. So here's what it takes to make a bigger move.
People have asked us sometimes if Swedenborg ever talks about people living on one level of heaven and then moving up to live on a higher level of heaven. And I found a quote in Swedenborg's book, Secrets of Heaven, that addresses that. And it says, "No one can ever be taken from the first outermost heaven into the second deeper heaven without first being taught about the good impulses of love and the true ideas of faith. The more such spirits learn, the more they can be lifted up among angelic spirits," which is a term Swedenborg sometimes uses for the spiritual angels in the middle heaven. Angelic spirits need similar training before they can be lifted up among angels of the third heaven. Instruction shapes our intermediate levels and so our inmost levels. So it seems that the answer is yes, a person living on one level of heaven can move up and live on a higher level if they open up to learning deeper information about love and truth and God. And in other words, if they're willing to embrace and absorb a higher perspective and let go of a previous perspective that they had held. And not everybody wants to do that. Many people are very happy and content in the perspective on life that they are living in. They feel useful and at home there. And that's what the Lord wants, for everyone to feel happy and at home in some part of heaven. But if someone is willing, wants to and is willing to open up to a whole new perspective, that's actually going to change their spiritual body, because in the spiritual world, changing your mind changes your body, which means it can be acclimated to a whole new level of heaven. And if you'd like to know more about that spiritual body concept and how it can change, see our episode, Your Spiritual Body.
So I hope you loved our tour of the boundaries of heaven. Boundaries are part of love. You can't, if you say you love someone, but you're walking all over their boundaries, that love is not going to grow. Love is complex, and God is complex. Perfection is complex. So there are boundaries and there are levels to things. And the intent behind that is a creation of happiness, is a creation of a happier whole for every individual. Because heaven can do what it does, which is give a home to everyone who wants to follow what's good and true because of these boundaries. You think about the human body is the ultimate picture of love, because everything in it is absolutely serving everything else. The heart is providing this service that is used by the lungs and used by the skin and everything. But if you had the heart and the lungs say, hey, we're both in here, we love each other, let's just kind of goo together. No, there's membranes. There are separations. The heart's got its own rhythm and its own thing it's doing, its own way of life. The lungs have their own rhythm, their own way of life. Yeah, they love each other. Yeah, they're working together. Yeah, they couldn't exist without each other, but they do so in their own unique way. The skin can't be like the lungs. The lungs can't be like the skin. They need to do the things that they need to do. So in heaven, that same complexity is there, and it leads to these boundaries, which it's fine. We can figure out ways that you can travel. We can make it so that human beings can go and do everything they need to do, but we do it within divine order because that order is set out to make everything better. So heaven is real. It's dynamic. It's interesting. There's challenges, but there's also this awesome cooperation and structure that's the divine design itself. So those boundaries that we see all around us are part of this larger whole, that hopefully you won't ever look at a boundary the same way. And I hope this was something that lifted up your mind and heart, and that you're going to go out and have the best day ever because of it. Thanks for watching. Love having you here. See ya.